Hi everybody, I'm Emanuela Paciotti from POLI.design. Today I will be moderating the presentation of the International Master in Strategic Design for Innovation and Transformation in collaboration with Polimi Graduate School of Management. Please feel free to use the chat to submit any questions you may have, which we will address in the second part of the session. Now let me introduce the speaker, Cabirio Cautela. Welcome.
Thank you, Emanuela, and welcome and good afternoon to everybody. I'm here in charge and substitution of Michele Melazzini, that actually is the right director of this master in collaboration with Claudio Dell'Era, that is the other scientific director, but I'm one of the founder of this master, so I'm here replacing Michele for the explanation of this kind of journey. Strategic design for innovation and transformation is an executive path, first of all, and it is managed for the 80% of the hours in our learning platform that is Microsoft Teams, so it's mostly an online course. And in particular, it aims to prepare manager and designer to drive and to navigate all the complex challenges that nowadays all the competitive environment in a certain way they pose. In particular, we say that this master looks in a sort of strategic and dual way, because while strategic design has been always considered as a competitive lever to create innovative product and to create innovative services, in this kind of master we try to address an external high, so the capability of the company to innovate, but also an internal high to the organization on how to transform the business model, the way people work, the way people collaborate, and the way people, in a certain way, create new things. So it's a sort of dual view master in which we prepare the leadership of tomorrow in order, on one end, to manage the creativity flow and the creativity group inside the company, but on the other end, to push on the market a meaningful solution that look at the human centricity issue. What to say about the main goal of this master? First of all, the people that usually exit from this master, they got different kind of capabilities, and in particular the span of these capabilities range from imagining and being able to provide a meaningful solution and meaningful innovation that address the actual human well-being issues. On the other end is to inspire colleagues, stakeholders, to be on board about the open innovation setting and the open innovation program that a lot of companies establish nowadays in the innovative programs that they lead. On the other hand, the capability to exploit the digital technologies, because what we say at the beginning of the master is that technology is not a value per se. So the ability of a design leader consists to leverage the technology in order to craft, in order to forge a new solutioning, new meaning of product and new meaning of services. On the other hand, we want to instill in all the students an entrepreneurial mindset. Why? Because today the question of the company, the request of the company is not just to innovate, is not just to launch on the marketplace new product or new service, but is to sometimes creating some spin-off, sometimes to creating new business unit, sometimes to unbundling their business model in different kind of unit. So this is one of the traits that we stress a lot, because to be a designer today is not just to get some signals from the society, from the technology trends, or from the cultural models, but it is also to have the capability to organize a wrapping up of resources in a new company, in a new spin-off, in a new venture that in companies or external to the companies you can create. On the other hand, this kind of profile that we want to create as a sort of design leader it should be able to manage and to guide the creative process that they happen in a team. You know, there are different kind of principles, different kind of rule to build the team, but on the other end, it's about your communication capabilities, your storytelling abilities, your capability to draw a picture. And when we say drawing a picture, it's not just a sort of drawing, but it's the capability to create a future scenario that in a certain way engage people to come on board. What are the building blocks of this master? First of all, these are some big areas where we have different kind of content articulation. So these are the main blocks that in a way they build the building of the master. First of all, the first chapter is dedicated to innovation and design, in particular understanding how nowadays the strategy take innovation and design at the center of their organizational behavior. On the other hand, the second chapter is about leadership and engagement. As we said, once that the company innovates, there is the problem of a sort of rebound effect on the organization, because also the organizational asset, also the organizational behavior should adapt to the new things, to the new product and the new services that the company pose on the market. On the other hand, the chapter 3, the block 3 and the block 4, they deal with some aspect related to creativity management. First, there is a new trend and a new stream in the managerial agenda that link the data mining to the creative capabilities. So everything will be in a certain way centered on this kind of discourse, how to get data, how to provide the meaning to data, and in particular recognizing how and in which kind of circumstances you should use big data or thick data that are completely different in nature and in volume and also in the velocity of production respect to the big data. The final part is dedicated to what we call design ops, and in particular to the organizational closing of the gaps that in every project, in every innovative program, there is between conceptualization and execution. So when we say design ops or DevOps, that is the classical process in software engineering in which you should close the gap and the bugs in the software. In the innovation program, it happens like in the software. You should close the gap, you should close the bug, you should close all the gray area that sometimes emerge in leading this kind of innovation program. This is a picture on how we articulate the program in the 4 different blocks. In particular, the first, as I said, deals with a sort of baseline of the managerial culture. So we transfer concept about what does it mean today making and strategizing the corporate. So what is a company purpose? Because nowadays the concept of mission and vision have been completely in a certain way overcame. On the other hand, we teach how to create an entrepreneurial culture into the established company, into the established corporate, and in particular how to transform the organization according to the design thinking and strategic design. On the other hand, the blocks number 2 deals with the topics that relate with the culture of leadership, and in particular, what does it mean today, the organizational behavior, how people and leaders can drive the organizational behavior, and how to adapt the process and values to the purpose of the company. On the other hand, we see also all the digital transformation traits. So what does it mean to have a digital transformation program, how to build a digital transformation program, and in particular, accepting the reality that the digital strategy is a completely ongoing and moving goal. So when you fix it, there is an external environment that is changing, and the new trends in technology can happen from a day to another. So the company every day needs in a certain way to adjust and be updated with the program on one end, but also looking for emergent opportunities on the other end. at a certain point in this block, there is a couple of lectures that are completely dedicated to design culture. Why? Because we are in Italy, in particular in Milano, and we have an heritage in which design culture is something that is not an actual, in a certain way, layer of the society, of the company, but we have a past in which design culture in a certain way moved the strategy forward. Design culture was a way to inspire the strategic design of the company. For example, if I take some cases like Alessi or Olivetti or Artemide or B&B, these are all companies in which there were a very strong design culture that inspired all the strategic part of this company. On the other hand, Block 3 and Block 4, in a certain way, they drill in some design aspect and design issues. Big data for analytics in particular, and platform thinking, in which you try to design a business model according to the new inspiration that they come from the platform economy. But on the other hand, we use this Block 3 in order to get insight in data and creativity and data and service innovation. Why? Because nowadays the profile of a designer is not just a professional that takes qualitative inspiration, but nowadays we speak about design, data-driven design or data-inspireful design, in which we intend that the designer blend and match qualitative data that they come from observation and quantitative data that they come from CRM or other kind of sources that the company manage. The block number 4, as I anticipated, it's about closing the gap, if we can try to give this kind of claim, and in particular we will take our attention on design ops, that are the operation of design, and in particular how this kind of operation in a certain way collapsing in open innovation program, they change. And when you create open collaborative environment, you have to in a certain way rewrite the rule of the design operation, and you have, as we said before, to close all the gaps and all the gray area that can be in an innovation process. On the other hand, we will provide to you all the methodologies about the agile movement and the sprint movement that in a way or in another, they are characterizing the new environment, the new creative environment of the company in providing a new minimum viable product. So minimum viable product is a concept with which you have to got familiarity, because nowadays the company, before launching a program with a million of product, with a million of references, they try to test on the market what we call MVP, a minimum viable product, that is a sort of learning tool to understand if the business hypotheses are right or wrong. Finally, as a design manager and as a design leader, you cannot avoid all the guidelines that today there are used in UX and UI design, because nowadays the UX and UI design, it's a sort of identity card of the experience that the user, customer, people and stakeholder, they can do on your website, on your web application, on your digital services. So maybe you will not be a designer of UX, but you should in a certain way govern the basic rules in order to avoid epic fail and other issues about your website, about the company digital application. The structure of the master in a certain way try to combine a theoretical lecture that are related to the blocks that we already see. On the other hand, there are practical and hands-on activity on which you will challenge digitally or in a physical setting your colleagues and some companies that we usually engage in the workshop experience. In particular, the digital bootcamps are sort of strategic brief that are launched by professional or scholars, and in particular these kind of brief are related to on-the-edge issues about strategic design. Instead, the face-to-face factory, as the name suggests, these are on physical and face-to-face experience that you will live in Milano for 1 week and in another city that we usually have as a partner an external and foreign university. For the first 4 years there has been the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago, but we are establishing a new partner for the next 5 years that we will come soon with the novelty news. This is the timeline in order to get an idea of the overall journey. So starting in February with the first block, you will find that in May the first digital bootcamp, and then there will start in June the second block about leadership and engagement, with the closing of the block with a face-to-face factory that usually it is placed in Milano. And then there will be the building block number 3 with data and creativity contents. After that, we will have the second digital bootcamp, and then we end the design ops part, and finally it closes with the face-to-face experience that we run in Italy or in another country where we will have our university partner. What are the kind of profile that this master in a certain way create? First of all, this is an executive program, so in order to be accepted and to be selected in this kind of journey, you need to have in your curriculum at least 5-10 years of professional experience. So this is not a master for fresh students that they exit from their graduation, but this is a master that address people that they want, for example, to accelerate their career in design issues, or they want to become, in their close future, a design leader. On the left side, you can find all the profiles that we create: design manager, design strategist, innovation manager, product or brand manager. Then it depends by the peculiarity of the organizational context where you will go or where you work. Because these kind of labeling in a certain way change and assume different meanings. For example, if you are in a manufacturing company or if you are in a service company, this kind of label tend to be very different in nature and in what they really do during their daily routine. On the other hand, in the graph that you can find on the right side, in which you have this kind of 6-point graph, and this shows how we try to instill different kind of capabilities in our master program. In particular, we intend the designer as a human catalyst, because he put on the table all the human-centric issues in all the innovation project. On the other hand, he should have some analytical capabilities in order to match data in different ways. And this is why the polar type that we want, it's about a design analyst, we say. On the other hand, we also speak about the design accelerator. What does it mean? It's about the capability to close the gap that we were talking about, the innovation process. And this is a fundamental capability, because nowadays in all the sprint and agile program that a lot of companies adopt as main methodology, you should have the capability to run up some activities, to close them, and to go in a very fast way beyond and forward in order to get the milestone and reaching the final result. It's less the part that you can find in the bottom of this graphic, it is to say that we don't create, in particular, design mentor, because our designer, in a way or in another, our design manager, they are completely immersed into the innovation issues. And on the other end, we try also to augment the brokering capabilities of a designer and of design leader, because the possibility to blend and mesh up different stimuli and different technologies or signs that they come from different sectors is fundamental for what we call design-driven innovation. Going on, why to choose this kind of master? What are the reasons why, the main reason why that we usually highlight? It's very easy to understand that if you come to this kind of program, you will get in touch with some international scholar, and some of our faculty in a certain way contributed crafting all the last theories about design management and about strategic design. People like Roberto Verganti, Francesco Zurlo, Ezio Manzini, Claudio Dell'Era, or others. Maybe they don't sound to you, but I can guarantee that they made the story of the last theories about design. On the other hand, we don't have a sort of theoretical program, don't worry about that, but the faculty is full of professional and design leaders that intervene in different phases and in different workshops that you will got. On the other hand, we will use for this master all the asset and all the digital structure that our business school, that is GISOM, has and join with the POLI.design. Then adding some other not secondary notes, we say always that the bootcamp and the face-to-face factories are ways to get in touch with external professionals and external companies that mainly they are design driven. So it's a way to nurture your network of relationship. And on the other hand, all the past alumni nowadays form a real alumni network that is a way to be connected with the people in all around the world that they work in design intensive industry, or they have a design leadership role in this moment in their career. So this is a sort of very fast outlook of our master, of our journey. It is organized in joint partnership between GISOM, that is the Business School of Politecnico di Milano, and POLI.design, that is the design school. And the next edition, nowadays, it's just a few days that the 4th edition started, and we are preparing for the 5th edition. I hope to see as soon as possible in our master program class. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I would like to provide some more details about the application process for the next edition of Strategic Design for Innovation and Transformation, which will begin in 2027. So by scanning the QR code, you will be redirected to the Specializing Masters page on the Polimi GISOM website, where you will need to complete your application. On this slide, you can see the list of required documents and the details of the ideal candidate profile. Let's now move to the Q&A session. So I will read the questions that we received in the chat. The first question is, what are the main differences between this master and the strategic design master that was presented this morning?
Yes. It's very easy for two reasons. The first is that the strategic design master without for innovation and transformation, the one of this morning that we presented, address all the graduated students that they have at least 1-2 years of professional experience. So we are talking about fresh student that in a way or in another they want to specialize their path. This kind of master is oriented to professional, that they have at least 5-10 years of job at their shoulder. And on the other end, these kind of master tend to be more managerial centric, in the meaning that we try to create with this kind of master a real design leader, for the fact that I anticipated at the beginning, the dual view that these master have to be connected with the organizational changes, and on the other hand, being an expert of innovation process makes this kind of master more oriented to people that they want to follow a managerial career. Somehow, and someone in the business school say that this is the MBA for a designer. So in order to say, you are already maybe a designer, you come from creativity and humanities, and you need to, in a certain way, empower your abilities in leading organizational team and in managing the creative process inside the complex organization. So this is something for some issues different from strategic design, classical way that we address to designer in order to be more strategic and not a real manager that they guide innovative program.
Thank you so much. We don't have other questions in the chat for now, so I thank Professor Cautela for being here today.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you everybody for taking part in this presentation, and see you soon.